Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Kodanitai Maya Poshashi, Kodanitai Maya Poshashi, Kodanitai Jaya Kodanitai Maya Poshashi, Kodanitai Maya Poshashi, Kodanitai Jaya Maya Poshashi. Yes, Guru Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shishi Kodanitai Maya Poshashi Ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi Hariva. So I'll read a little bit from the history of Srila Prabhupada. For observing Janmashtami, there were special rules. Janmashtami is the celebration of Krishna's birthday. There should be no eating, and the day was to be spent chanting, reading, and discussing Krishna consciousness. If anyone became weak, he said there was fruit in the kitchen, but better that they fast until the feast at midnight. Just like the devotees in India. He said that in India, millions of people, Hindus, Muslims, or whatever, observed the birthday of Lord Krishna. And in every temple, there were festivities and celebrations of the pastimes of Krishna. And now, he said at length, I will tell you what is meant by initiation. Is this after? Initiation means that the spiritual master accepts the student and agrees to take charge. And the student accepts the spiritual master and agrees to worship him as God. He paused. No one spoke. Any questions? As there were none, he got up and walked out. The devotees were stunned. What had they just heard him say? For weeks he'd stressed that when anyone claims to be God, he should be considered a dog. My mind's just been blown, said Wally. Everyone's mind is blown, said Howard. Swamiji just dropped a bomb. He thought of Keith. He was wise, consult Keith. But Keith was in the hospital. Talking among themselves, they became more and more confused. Swamiji's remark had confounded their judgment. Finally, Wally decided to go to the hospital to see Keith. Keith listened to the whole story. He heard how Swamiji had told them to fast, and how he had read from his manuscript, and how he had said he would explain initiation, and how everybody had leaned forward, all ears, and Swamiji had dropped a bomb. Students accept the spiritual master and agrees to worship him as God. Any questions? And then Swamiji had walked out. I don't know if I want to be initiated now. Wally confessed, we have to worship him as God. Well, you're already doing that by accepting whatever he tells you, Keith replied. And he advised that they talk it over with Swamiji before initiation. So Wally went to the temple and consulted Howard, and together they went up to Swamiji's apartment. Does what you told us this morning, Howard asked, mean we are supposed to accept the spiritual master to be God? That means he is due the same respect as God, Srila Prabhupada said. Being God's representative means he is as good as God, because he can deliver God to the sincere disciple. Is that clear? It was. Shakshat Dari Twain, he's worshipped as good as, but he's worshipped as a servant of God. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2, Ajamil, delivered by the Vishnu Dutas, and its text. Okay, I'll just run through the translation. Ajamil was a Brahmin who, because of bad association, had given up all Brahminical culture and religious principles. Becoming most fallen, he stole, drank, and performed other abominable acts. He even kept a prostitute. Thus he was destined to be carried away to hell by the order carriers of Yamaraj. But he was immediately rescued simply by a glimpse of the chanting of the holy name of Narayan. Text 46. Nata param kama nibanda krintanam. Nata param kama nibanda kritanam. Mumukshitam teta padanuketanat. Mumukshitam teta padanuketanat. Na yat puna kamasu sajate mano. Na yat puna kamasu sajate mano. Rajas tamobhyam kalilam tato nyata. Rajas tamobhyam kalilam tato nyata. Nata param kamane banda krintanam. Mukshitam teta padanukritanat. Nayat puna kamasu sajate mana. Rajas tamobhyam kalilam tato nyata. Nata param kamani banda krintanam. Mukshitam teta padanukritanat. Nayat puna kamasu sajate mano. Rajas tamobhyam kalilam tato nyata. Nata param kamani banda krintanam. Mukshitam tete padanukritanat. Yat puna kamasu sajate mano. Rajas tamobhyam kalilam tato nyata. Yatpuna kamasu sajjate mano. Rajastamobhyam kalilam tatonyata. Ladies. Ataparam kama libanda krintana. Yatpuna kamasu sajjate mano. Rajostamobhyam kalilam tatonyata. Ataparam kama libanda kirtana. Kirtanad. Ayatpuna kamasu sajayata mano. Rajastamobhyam kalilam tatonyata. Na, not. Ata, therefore. Param, better means. Kane nibanda, the obligation to suffer or undergo tribulations as a result of fruitive activities. Krintanam, that which can completely cut off. Mumukshatam, of persons desiring to get out of the clutches of material bondage. Tetapada, about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at whose feet all the holy places stand. Sorry. Anukirtanat, than constantly chanting under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. Na, not. Yat, because. Puna, again. Kamasu, in fruitive activities. Sajjate, becomes attached. Mana, the mind. Rajatamobhyam, by the modes of passion and ignorance. Kalilam, contaminated. Tata, thereafter. Anyata, by any other means. Translation. Therefore, one who desires freedom from material bondage should adopt the process of chanting and glorifying the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at whose feet all the holy places stand. One cannot derive the proper benefit from other methods such as pious atonement, speculative knowledge, and meditation in mystic yoga, because even after following such methods, one takes to fruitive activities again, unable to control his mind, which is contaminated by the base qualities of nature, namely passion and ignorance. Responsively, please. Therefore, one who desires freedom from material bondage should adopt the process of chanting and glorifying the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at whose feet all the holy places stand. One cannot derive the proper benefit from other methods, such as pious atonement, speculative knowledge, and meditation in mystic yoga. Because even after following such methods, one takes to fruitive activities again, unable to control his mind, which is contaminated by the base qualities of nature, namely passion and ignorance. Papa Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Srila Prabhupada says, it has actually been seen that even after achieving so-called perfection, many karmis, jnanis, and yogis become attached to material activities again. Many so-called swamis and yogis give up material activities as false jagan mithya, but after some time, they nevertheless resume material activities by opening hospitals and schools or performing other activities for the benefit of the public. Sometimes they participate in politics, although still falsely declaring themselves sannyasis, members of the renounced order. The perfect conclusion, however, is that if one actually desires to get out of the material world, he must take to devotional service, which begins with Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. The Krishna consciousness movement has actually proved this. In the Western countries, many young boys who were addicted to drugs and who had many other bad habits, which they could not give up, abandoned all these propensities and very seriously engaged in chanting the glories of the Lord as soon as they joined the Krishna consciousness movement. In other words, this process is the perfect method of atonement for actions performed in Raja and Tama, passion and ignorance. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava, Karma Lobadeyas Chaye, Cheta Ete Anavidam, Stitam Sattve Prasidati. As a result of Raja and Tama, one becomes increasingly lusty and greedy. But when one takes to the process of chanting and hearing, one comes to the platform of goodness and becomes happy. As he advances in devotional service, all his doubts are completely eradicated. Vijite hridaya grantis chidyante sarva samshaya. Thus the knot of his desire for fruitive activities is cut to pieces. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhastam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swabadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu. Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sorry, translation. Therefore, one who desires freedom from material bondage should take up chanting. One can derive the proper other methods, such as atonement, knowledge, meditation, mystic yoga, or through activities, unable to control his mind, contaminated by the base qualities. And Prabhupada says in the purport that so-called swamis and yogis who have apparently given up the material world and called themselves sannyasis, after a period of time, again, go back into material activities and involve themselves in politics and opening hospitals and whatever else. Of course, if you're opening hospitals and getting into politics to spread Krishna consciousness, that's one thing. We have, is it 2 hospitals in Bombay? Mumbai? Yeah. And they have chanting going on in the background all the time, and the doctors are wearing neck beads and tilak, isn't it? So nice atmosphere to heal in, actually. So the perfect conclusion is that we want to get out of the material world, and therefore we must take to chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. And there was a nice reference to, it says in the translation, it says the process of chanting and glorifying the name. So what's significant about that is chanting the holy name isn't sufficient. You have to glorify the holy name. You have to share whatever you're experiencing in your chanting. Like we're doing these sanghas where we meet, a group of devotees will meet in the evening for an hour, and then we'll just talk about our chanting and how we can improve our chanting. And while we're doing that, we're glorifying the holy name. So this helps us to chant the holy name. We're trying to hear the holy name, and we're trying to get the holy name to hear us chanting. And it's a very simple method, very simple process. Whereas these other methods of doing fruitive things, pious things, they pious activity doesn't counteract impious activity. So if you've been very, very bad and you've stolen a lot of money and you think this is really bad, I'm going to give this away in charity, you still get the reaction for the impious activity, and then you get the reaction for the pious activity. But the pious activity doesn't nullify the impious activity. If you want to nullify pious and impious, then it has to be transcendental, and that's when chanting and hearing and glorifying the name, fame, qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supreme transcendence, bends off all the reactions. And one of the worst reactions for performing sinful activity is the reaction of desires, which then accumulate and increase. So it's one thing doing something bad, and then afterwards you maybe feel really bad about it. So I'm really sorry I did that. But then once you've done it, the reaction for that is more desires to again do the same thing. So it self-perpetuates. So it becomes very difficult, actually. You say to form a habit, you have to do the same thing for 28 days. So if you decide, I need to get up early from now on, and every day you manage to do it for 28 days, after that you'll do it the rest of your life because it becomes a habit. Problem is, if you've slept in for more than 28 days, then you've got a habit there as well. So it perpetuates itself. So once you've been doing it for 28 days, then the mind's like, well, this is just impossible. You know, I've been doing this as long as I can remember. I've never been able to get up and then we talk ourselves into accepting, and then we don't break free from bad habits. So part of the way we're living our lifestyle as Hare Krishna devotees is we rise early, we dance in Guru Puja, we chant, there are so many things that we do, and if you've been doing it for 28 days, and then eventually 28 months, and then 28 years, then it becomes second habit. You know, you find wherever you go, you're dancing around at 7 o'clock in the morning wherever you are. So that's a good habit. People generally, for people to have a nice dance, they need to be so intoxicated that they can be uninhibited enough to be able to do that in front of everybody else. But for devotees, they don't have to be intoxicated to do this. Sometimes people come up to us when they see us dancing, and they say, "What is it? Could I have half an ounce of that, please?" I say, "No, we're not on ecstasy. We're in ecstasy. We're just happy." And they're thinking, "Well, how is that possible? How can you be happy in this gloomy, miserable material world unless you're on something?" So this gives people the vision and the faith to think, well, maybe this could work for me. If it worked for him, then they find out that, well, devotees are just normal people. He used to be a postman. He used to smoke cigars, and look at him now. He's dancing about. He doesn't care about anybody. So maybe I can do it as well. You know, I used to be a postman. I am a postman. Any questions or comments? Ishan?
You said that, like, they see us and they're asking us what we're on. Like, in a way, we are intoxicated because we're intoxicated on the holy name.
Yeah.
So it's really nice.
Yeah.
We get sincere.
Yeah. In fact, instead of being intoxicated on the holy name, we're detoxified on the holy name. We're experiencing the bliss of becoming detoxified. It's like if people go in they sometimes go in these health things where they purge themselves, you know. There's one panchakarma at the very end. You're given this brown treacle thing, like gooseberries, and you take it, and you go to the loo like 12 times, and then toward the end, everything's gone, you know, everything's coming out, and you're purged. And then the next day, you wake up and you feel as light as a feather, and you're floating around, and the body feels completely cleansed. So that's the happiness of detoxification. Part of the process with detoxification is when you're purging the system, sometimes unpleasant things are coming out. And sometimes if you're making ghee and you're heating it and all these horrible things are coming up and you're thinking, oh no, turn it off. No, don't. I don't want ghee after all. I'll just take the butter as it is. You know, you put the butter in the wok and you heat it up. And part of the process is these smelly things come out. But then when you scoop them out, what you're left with is ghee. And pure ghee, it keeps for a long time because there's no impurities in it. Just pure ghee. It's like honey. It just keeps and keeps and keeps, you know. So yeah, that's a nice comment. Being detoxified on the holy name. It's a cleansing process. I mean, can you imagine if you went your whole life and there was one part of your body, maybe your right armpit, and you decided you weren't going to cleanse it, and after 75 years, it wouldn't be very pleasant. So the mind is also part of us, and although it's a subtle thing, it can get contaminated by the wrong types of impressions called samskaras. They say that the indentations on the brain are the memories on the brain. When the brain goes smooth, like people that go punch drunk, then they lose their ability to remember things. So we carry all these different impressions, and they just stay your entire life, unless you have some system of purification of how to be able to purify that. And when you feel it purified and you think, wow, I used to feel like this when I saw that, and I don't feel like that anymore, and that used to get me really angry, and now it doesn't worry me anymore, and I used to get so upset about this, and now I'm okay. And then you can feel, wow, I'm changing, my consciousness is changing, I'm becoming cleansed. Rajas and tamas is passion and ignorance. And Prabhupada says that these propensities are what caused all these nasty habits, like addicted to drugs and any other bad habits. And they abandoned all these propensities just by chanting the glories of the Lord. So there's quite a dramatic transformation that takes place. And yeah, there's 3 modes. We did a mental health first aid course, Pip and myself, a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about different states of mind, and what they were coming up with was nice, but I was thinking it would be so useful if people that are trying to help people with mental health, if they were aware of how the modes of nature work, that if you rise late and you eat this type of thing and you don't bathe, then it means you'll have more trouble with your mind, you'll be more disturbed. And if you try and be the center of attention and you speak louder than everybody else, and you have a big bright red car and you're very blingy and your teeth are so shiny when you smile, people have to put their sunglasses on, and you're the total center of attention and trying to show everybody how cool you are, then you're always in anxiety because mode of passion, you're trying to present yourself, your Facebook profile, as this really cool guy that eats these massive sandwiches and goes to these far out places and married to a supermodel and has 3 kids that look like angels, and everything's squeaky clean, and you don't put a foot wrong in life, and you're having, such a wonderful time. That's mode of passion, trying to maintain some prestige. And the mode of goodness, you like being in the countryside, you like helping people, you're inclined to philosophy, and you like classical music, and you just like, just a nice, clean person who you can rely on, very high level of integrity. So we don't want to get dragged down. And, people do want to be nice. If you said to somebody, would you like to be a nicer person next year? Or would you like to be a worser person? Most people would say, I think I'd like to be nicer than I am now. And then you ask them, well, what method will you employ to become a nicer person than you are now? Well, I won't steal from a bank. I won't kill anyone. I'll help old ladies across the road, which is nice, but it's pious activity, but it doesn't actually elevate the consciousness. So if people are even thinking, do they even know they've got a consciousness to elevate? And if they realize they do have a consciousness and they can elevate it, do they understand the methods by which they can do that? And with practicing Krishna consciousness, you can try it out. You can try before you buy, before you commit to the process. You can try it out. You can say, okay, I'm going to try and rise early for a week. I'm going to try eating just vegetarian diet. Just before I eat it, I'll say grace and thank God for providing these grains and fruits and products for me to eat. Thank you so much. And I'll eat it with a mood of gratitude. And I'll try some meditation. And we'll see how things are doing in a week. You can do that. And then if it's good, then you can commit. Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
So what is in the chanting that makes you give up drugs and bad habits and etc. What is, you said it has a transformational power, but where it's coming from? What is it? What makes the transformation?
So the question is, what is it? How does the chanting purify us of these lower qualities, and how does it give us pleasure? I suppose it's a bit like saying, how does a banana taste like a banana? And you could say, well, it just does. You have to try the banana and you'll see for yourself. So you could say, well, how does honey taste like honey? I heard it was really sweet, and I know what sweetness is, but I'm not sure what honey is. Well, you take the lid off and you try it. You taste the honey. So to really understand what chanting is, you have to experience it for yourself. And what's happening? The sound vibration is not coming from the material atmosphere; it's coming from the spiritual atmosphere. So like sometimes when you're trying to tune into a station, and then suddenly you can hear some music and you tune in, and then you're on Radio 4 hearing the classical music. So the mantra is tuning you in to the spiritual strata. So when you focus on the mantra and you actually hear the mantra, then you start to hear, wow, this is I haven't heard sound vibration like this before. It's the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, when you actually hear the mantra, it's startling. It startles you. Wow, that's amazing. It doesn't sound like anything else that we've ever heard before. No mundane sound vibration. Shishi Kodanitai Maya Poshashi Ki Jai. And it's interesting in this chapter how the sound vibration is so powerful that even if you say, I have a rather nice car. No, you say, well, that would be hara, hara, or you could say, ha ha. He's, I really like that. So you would have hari, although they would be separated, but because the sounds are there and the sound vibrations are spiritual, then even if we're not meaning hare and they're separated, then there's still some potency there. There's still some effect taking place by spiritual sound vibration. And they have a machine which is composed of a thin membrane with small particles of sand, and they put the vibration of a mantra through, and the sand produces these beautiful patterns, and then you say something like the inland revenue, and it creates this distorted, horrible fish and chips, whatever it is. But if you say Om Rama Rama, then these beautiful shapes appear. And there's been some Japanese research on how sound affects water, and they freeze the water, -24, isn't it? And they say love, 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 and you get these beautiful snowflakes. Then they say, I don't know, Black Sabbath, and you get these strange shapes forming, So sound vibration is very, very powerful. It's the most effective method for waking a person is to waken with sound. Somebody sometimes can be so asleep, even you shake them and they're still. And then you say, get up! And then the sort of sound is more penetrating than any other material element. And then if the sound is composed of spiritual sound vibration, then it doesn't just wake up the physical body, but it wakes up the soul that's sleeping. It's referred to that the soul is dwelling in the body. So just imagine that you're dwelling inside something and you're not aware of who you are. It's like saying Javit is dwelling in the car, and I go over to say, how's it going, Javit? And Javit's in the car, but he's sleeping, And I'm knocking on, Javit, wake up, Haribo. And then he wakes up, and then he starts controlling the car. Up until then, the car was going downhill, free. He was freewheeling, could hit anything. And I'm going along, wake up. Oh, and then he puts it in gear and avoids going over the cliff. So we're dwelling in the body asleep, And the sound vibration of the mantra is reviving us, awakening us. And then we start to become aware that we have a spiritual nature, that we're eternal, that we're full of bliss, and we're full of knowledge. These are our intrinsic spiritual qualities. And when they're covered over, then we're miserable, we're in ignorance, and we think we're temporary. We think we have a birth and a death, a beginning and an end. What's happening? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Hare Krishna. Jai, any other questions or comments? Yes, Ashish Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, if you could please explain what is mystic yoga, and is Krishna consciousness, chanting of Hare Krishna mantra, a mystic yoga?
Well, yogi, Krishna says it is a mystic yoga in one sense. He says, Yoga namapi sarvesham sarva loka maheshwaram sahudam sarvbhutanam. No, is that? That's it. Shraddhavam bhajate yomam shame muktito mataha. So he says, of all yogis, he says to Arjuna, the best thing to be is a yogi. Of all the things to be, whether you're an empiricist or a chagi, but the best is to be a yogi. But he says, of all yogis, the one who always thinks of me and abides in me, he is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So he's saying it's the supermost mystical yogic practice, because the other practices of yoga, they give you the perfection of manipulating the material energy. So you become enamored by that power, and then you're forced to stay in the material world, The main incentive for a lot of us is because we're in distress. Our inability to manipulate the material energy frustrates us. And then we take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet until frustration, you see. So then if we then become very adept and competent at manipulating the material energy, we think, actually, this is a pretty cool place. I can do all these far out things. I think I'll just hang around here in the material world instead, So it's more elevated, but it's not the highest, Best is to circumvent all the intermediary stages and go directly to Krishna, so that you don't become attracted to anything along the way, You just go, I'm just going to skip all these things and just go straight for Krishna consciousness and realize that, That's like the unripened mango. The mango is green right now, but potentially it will be sweeter and juicier than anything else, any other fruit in the material world. But you need to be patient and have the faith to hold on to that mango until it ripens, and then it will be there. And other people that have been holding the mango for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, they can tell you it's getting really sweet now. Just keep a hold of it. And as you go on, it will get more and more sweet. Although in the initial stages, it may just seem like you have a green object. It doesn't even seem like it's a mango, It tastes like a green potato. But potentially it will become very sweet. You have to just hold on to it, So yeah, these are all different. And even higher than the mystic yogi is the Brahmanandi, who merges in the Brahman. That's even more, so that's the last snare of Maya, is you get off with all these far out things, you want a nice car, how about a nice this? Well, I'll tell you what, how about this? You can float around in bliss with no hassle for trillions of years. You want to go for that one? It's the last snare. No, I don't even want that. And then forewarned is forearmed, actually. So better to know that that's what's going to be coming up. You're going to get tempted, it's like you say, well, there's some diamonds down there and they're £3 million each, but watch out, because there's a few dodgy guys down there in the market, and they'll be trying to sell you these cheapo ones that are made in Hong Kong, 10 for 50p. So watch out for the rinky-dink stuff, and remember, it's the ones it's £3 million. Hold on to your money and just purchase them. So that's what pure devotional service is. So don't get tricked along the way and get something else. I thought I was thinking that you were formulating a very profound. Any other questions or comments? So it's interesting because the premise is one who desires freedom from material bondage should adopt the process of chanting. So what is your initial, your pre-qualification for taking up the chanting is that you desire freedom from material bondage. You want out, you want to get out. That's your initial reason for taking up the chanting. Not because you want to be happy in the material world, not because you want to. I was just listening this morning, Mahaprabhu was giving a talk with Badhanarayan, and he was saying that the first thing that they were teaching at the last chapter retreat is that we're not chanting to enjoy it. We're chanting for Krishna to enjoy it. We're chanting to please Krishna by our chanting. So the initial reasons we take up the chanting, we have to clarify them first of all. Am I doing this so that I can have a nicer life? I can be peaceful. I can be shown respect and recognition. Am I chanting for those reasons, or am I chanting to get free from all types of material contamination and become a pure, submissive, unconditional servant of Krishna? What are my intentions in the first place? And if you're praying and you don't think your prayers are going to be answered, then there's not so much chance that your prayers will be answered. When you're praying, you have to have the faith that Krishna can do anything and he can fulfill. And if the prayer is a good one, and it's one that would be pleasing to Krishna, then you should have full faith that Krishna will fulfill that prayer. And then you have the most chance of the prayer being answered if you have that faith. So you have to think, okay, well, what would Krishna be most likely? What prayer would he be most likely to fulfill? And let me get my head into that and stop praying like that. And you cannot derive the proper benefit from other methods. So the proper benefit is freedom from material bondage, and you won't get that benefit by pious atonement, speculative knowledge, or mystic yoga. You won't get the benefit. Mystic yoga won't give you that. It'll just allow you to play around with the material energy in a more fancy way. Somebody else has to go over and get himself a glass of water, and with the mystic yoga, you just make the glass come to you. And you just. In fact, wasn't it a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? He said, what's the point of doing the mystic perfections? They've already done them. They can drill under the ground. They can float on the water. They can fly in the sky. They've already done it. You don't even have to practice austerity for 50 years. You just buy a ticket and jump on the plane. You can be flying around. Save yourself a lot of time, right? So you cannot derive the proper benefit. Of course, so that's the other thing is, can we clarify what is the proper benefit? How many people even know what is the proper benefit in the first place? There's a lot of people that are in the prison and they don't even know they're in the prison. They don't even know you're supposed to get out of the prison. They're thinking, you just exist in this prison. You just come into existence in this cell. You don't think, how did you get in the cell? You just, okay, well, this is where I am. Okay, he's in his cell. He's in his cell. Okay. And you just stay in the cell, and then eventually you get kicked out, and that's it. That's all there is. This is all there is. So coming to the understanding that you're actually imprisoned, that you are dwelling in the prison of the body, the city of 9 gates, and then, okay, so how am I going to get out? And then you can take up the chanting and glorifying the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any last questions or comments?
So everyone in this material world is condemned.
Wow.
Irrespective of how powerful they may be, but they're all condemned, or we are all condemned, as long as we are trying to find a permanent solution in the material world.
Yet he says something else which is quite funny. He says, even if you do, you think, well, it's not so bad anyway. I mean, okay, it's a cell, and it's got some bars on the window, but I can put some nice wallpaper on, and I'll get myself a Simba mattress for the bed, and it won't be that bad. I'll have some nice music playing, and I'll get a soft Himalayan salt lamp, give it a nice kind of, it's okay, But even then, you try and get into it. Even then, you get kicked out anyway. Even if you make the best use of it, you really, I'll just try and make the best use of a bad bug. It's not so bad, really. Then even then, okay, out. I'm kicking you out now. Where am I going next? Are you going to a smaller cell? We're going to put you in a smaller cell. I'm going to put you in a straitjacket, actually. You've been behaving like an animal. You're coming back as a pig now. You've always been so greedy. So then you go. So it is quite condemned, actually. But you have to wake up to that and realize, hold on a second, I'm a spirit soul. I'm eternal. What am I doing here in this cell? Get me out. And some people don't even want to get out. They do these jailbreaks sometimes, and they say, "Quick, everybody, run! We've knocked the guard on the head. He's out cold, and we've blown a hole in the wall. Everyone, quick, get out now! It's your chance." And some say, "No, I'm okay. I'm just gonna stay. I get regular meals here. I'm okay. I don't want to go back." Jai. Okay. ISKCON Guru in the key. Srila Prabhupada ki. Nitai Gauda Premanandi. Haribol.
Ki.
All of
Jai.
you ki. Jai.